Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Mourning Tea. I have a wonderful guest here with me today. Her name is Carly, but I'm sure you know her as Blonde Chronicles. Welcome, Carly.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm honestly shocked you wanted to be on here. I sent you the most deranged message, and I feel like I have to
Well,
just
I
admit what it is at this point.
loved it. It was great. It was authentic.
I
Amazing.
sent her this message, and after I sent it, I was like, two things are going to happen. She's either going to think I'm cool and be like, I would love to be on your podcast, or she's going to get a restraining order. Because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, if you wanted to be on my podcast or if you didn't, could I pay you? Also, must be what it's like being a man, asking a woman out on a date, and this is horrible.
I loved it. It was very real, and I felt that way too about a lot of things that I've asked for. It was perfect. To me, it was great.
I love that. Okay, but let's jump into it. You have such a massive brand, and that is the one thing I love about you so much. Every time I watch you, it feels like I know you, even though I've never met you, because it's so authentic. How have you even I feel like being authentic these days on social media and while building something big it's really hard. And I think really fucking scary. How have you
Oh yeah.
managed to do this in your own way?
Yeah, no, it's been a journey. I will say that. I mean, I'm always learning about social media. It's constantly changing and especially about just being true to myself and being authentic. To me, that's been a learning curve because it's very tempting to just, you know, like, I mean, I do hop on trends to stay like relevant, but to some
Yeah.
extent, you kind of have to just be like, be true to yourself. So it's been a journey. I will say I've gotten better recently at getting on social media, like with my face and showing my face more. So that's been really helpful and hard, but it has helped. So I think, I guess it's an evolution. I don't know if there's one thing that I can
Yeah.
pinpoint that's been like, this was the thing that helped me, but it's been a journey and I'm constantly trying to figure it out still after all this time. So,
Yeah. Well, and I feel like you saying that putting your face out there was
yeah.
scary, but so helpful because I think that's the worst part for everybody that they're like, because I know, especially like faceless accounts are so popular now. Like,
Yes.
I said it, but I feel like seeing your face, there's also a personality to it that kind of like connects you with the audience. And everyone I work with, they're like, I don't want to put my face out there. I'm like, yeah, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's hard too because one of my somebody that I have followed for a while talks about, and not in the hair industry, but somebody else talking about kind of social media business coaching stuff, talks about a lot of people actually buy because of the person and not necessarily because of just the offer. Now, obviously, it's not always about people buying from us, but it's really about that connection. Ultimately, we are all kind of selling something, even as hairstylists. So it's really, to me, I kind of looked at it like that and it made such sense. It's like people want to buy from a person, not just from like a person that they have no clue who it is. So that really helps me. And I feel that way too as a consumer. A lot of what I'm buying into with a brand or a person is them. So I kind of went back to like, actually, you know what? That has a lot of validity, that showing yourself and your personality is actually a big part of why people choose to follow you or choose to come and book an appointment with you or anything like that. So I don't know, it makes sense, but it is hard. So I totally relate to the people that are like, I don't want to show my face.
And they're like, well, and my favorite is because I work with a lot of people on their social media. And when they're like,
Yeah.
I don't know, Ani, I have 1,000 followers. What if 1,000 people see me? I'm like,
Yeah.
the goal is
Right?
for 1,000 people. And then for 1,000 more and 1,000 more. And then they're like, I don't
I
think I
know.
can read. I'm like, it'll be fine. I
I
promise.
know.
In the beginning, it'll be like a couple people. And I feel like maybe in the past like year or two, and tell me if you've seen this, I feel like everything has shifted and changed where it kind of can't be that very cold, like click the link in bio, like buy my
Yeah.
stuff, find me money. It's almost like the less you try to sell, the more you end up selling.
1,000%. It's so interesting. And it's social media is just, I mean, we know it's a job in itself, basically, but keeping up with the trends on social media is also another job. And I'm just like exhausted by it all the time. But it is true. I mean, there are definitely um there are definitely differences now with how it used to be, where a very clear call to action was like always the thing. You gotta have it really clear. But now it's almost like you you're like a little more discreet about it, and people somehow want to figure it out. And I'm like, wait, this just makes no sense. I don't get this.
You're like, cool. So in order to sell, I can't sell or
Yeah,
seem salesy. So I have to not talk about the things I want to talk about, but also talk about it. Makes perfect sense.
got
That's
it.
great.
Perfect, perfect. Yes, cool, 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 cool.
That is so
Crazy.
hard. Yes. And then on top of having to have the most perfect content, but also have it be so authentic and look clear, I feel like I lucked out. One of my friends, Grayson, he was even just, he was taking Linson's class yesterday. And he was like, honey, his videographer had like the coolest camera thing with a thing. And my friend Grayson loves taking video and takes the most beautiful ones. So I feel like I lucked out when you have a friend who loves doing the thing that you're like, I'm not in the mood to, I don't want to do that.
1,000%. Oh my gosh, which I love him, by the way. His work in like the weft blending is insane. It's so good. And
He's the most immaculate. It looks like a robot did it. I can watch him work all day and I'm like, it gives me like the heart eye emojis. I'm like dreamy over his work. Yeah.
it's so good. And how he talks about he uses like very minimal colors, which I just am obsessed with that because that's such my thing. But a funny story leading back to what you were saying about the class he took yesterday. So the videographer that was there, I've been working with him for like years, and he
Shut up.
also works with a bunch of other videographers or other stylists. And so he got this thing. It's basically what he's talking about is like a backpack that you wear and it like holds the camera, right? It's crazy. So he was talking to me a couple of weeks ago. He's like, I might get this backpack thing, and he was telling me the price of this camera equipment, and I'm like, John, oh my God, it's like thousands of dollars, which I don't know why I'm surprised, but it just goes to show that there's literally no end to what you can invest in like content creation. It's just absolute madness. And sometimes I just like, you know what, I'm going to stick to my iPhone here and just hope for the best because this is just too much for me, but it's worth it, obviously, but it's crazy. It's endless, endless.
Yeah. Well, and even like Grayson, what I love is I let his ADHD fixation figure out what camera we should use.
Yeah.
One day he called me late at night. He's like, we're FaceTiming. He's like, you're going to believe what I found. I just spent, I think it was like half a day. He's like, I watched this and then this and then this. He's like, Ani, this is the camera we need. And I was like, can you send me a link? And I'm like, send me your affiliate link. I'll get you money for it.
Yeah.
What are we using?
Right? You're like, you do the work and I will reap the benefits. Thank you. It's perfect.
But let me tell you, he was right. That camera is damn good. But I feel you. Sometimes I feel like, you know what? It's like if the option is get no content or just use an iPhone, just use your iPhone.
Like that's exactly how I feel. Everybody asks that, like, what camera do you use? Have you ever used like a professional camera? And I'm like, you know what? I've bought them for sure. I probably have bought like 2 to 3 decent cameras. And then what ends up happening is I just don't do the thing to like learn them, and I don't get them out when I need to. And I'm just like, my iPhone's just there. So it becomes a waste. And then I end up selling them or getting rid of them. But it becomes a waste. And I hate that I do that to myself. But it just, I don't know. I just can't, like, to me, I always go back to my iPhone. It's just the easiest way for me. So
I love that. But I did see your studio and I was like, oh, that is a beautiful studio you have. I was like, oh my God, that is so beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a work in progress always, but thank you.
Of course. So when you were building, did you ever have a moment where you were like, because on the outside, you are a big deal in the hair world. I would be shocked to find someone who doesn't, even if they don't know you by name, everybody knows Blonde Chronicles. Everybody knows the BCU. Like that's just like a thing in the hair industry. Did you ever have a moment where you're like, I kind of think I'm a big deal. Like, did I make it? I think I made it. Have you ever had that moment?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. And thank you so much. You're so sweet. You know, I have moments where I'm like, okay, I think I'm like making a little bit of a mark here. I mean, I've always kind of struggled with confidence. Honestly, I feel like that's something that imposter syndrome. I mean, it's rampant in this industry, especially, but any industry really. But I do have those moments. I feel like some of them are when, honestly, like silly things, like when those things come up on Instagram stories and people are like, tag your stylist or tag a stylist that inspires you. And people tag me to like, oh my God, that's so sweet. Like little things like that where I'm kind of like, okay, I guess people will know I exist. And that sounds stupid. And I don't even mean that to sound
No.
like I genuinely sometimes, I question a lot of things I do and I question, am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the wrong thing, saying the right thing? So little things like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Because followers, yes, I mean, I've, grown my presence on social media, but honestly, they don't mean shit, really. Like I could have, sometimes I still post stuff and it's crickets and like no engagement. So that doesn't, I'm not looking for validation through that kind of stuff. What really makes me feel like, oh, I have made an impact, honestly, in the industry is the things where people, tag me or shout me out that I inspire them, or even at classes or DMs or something where people are like, you helped me to get over this or to help me to learn the way to do this that I really struggled with. Those kind of things are really impactful. And that's kind of where I go off of like, okay, I'm hopefully
Making a
making
difference.
impact. Yeah, that stuff's important to me for sure.
That is huge. There is, and I feel like unless you've been like an educator or a coach or a trainer, it's almost like you don't realize how much just that one of like,
Yeah.
wow, that really helped me overcome this or something like that. I got a DM yesterday from one of my students and she was like, the way she's like, your style of training just resonates with me because it's so like to the point. And I was like,
I love that.
you
Mhm.
like it just
That's the best.
the absolute best. There is nothing that makes that feel like there's nothing that feels better than someone validating, especially because there's a difference. I know you'll understand. There's a difference between doing great hair and then
Yeah.
being able to teach. That will humble you so
So
fast.
much. Yes. Oh my God. You're so right. And it's a different skill completely. And it's also is a skill that needs to be like refined and learned. When I first started teaching, I was like, you're like fumbling over your words. You don't really know what to say. You're like, I don't know. I just do it this way and I don't really know why. And I even find now that sometimes with things that I don't, because I teach color mostly, but if I'm teaching like a haircut or something that I'm not super like, I haven't taught as much. I'm like, well, I don't know how to say this. So it's totally, that is a real thing. And it is very humbling, 1,000%. Absolutely.
But I also love the fact that you said that likes and follows don't matter because I do feel like it's kind of a shame. What's that show? Is it like Black Mirror where they had an episode where everyone had like a rating based on their social media? It was
Yeah.
weird.
Yes. That is,
And
I only watched this a little bit. Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
it freaked me out. But I
Yeah.
feel like weirdly, that's kind of how society is. They're like, you have how many followers? Wow. Do you want to like be friends? And it's like, do you know anything else about me other than that one number? But I think you
Literally.
posted literally this morning about your apparel account, and you're like, this account follows me every day. I got 13 likes.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so true. Yeah, I started a clothing line or like apparel. And so I'm making an Instagram account for starting, of course, at zero. And every day I'm just like, okay, it's crickets. And 3 of the 10 likes are me. And the worst part about that account, honestly, is that so I did a photo shoot and I like need to do another photo shoot. We have one coming up soon, but all of the photos are of me. Okay, not that I like take it personally that nobody's liking my stuff, but it's just embarrassing. Like I have only photos of myself to post and I'm getting crickets. It's fine. It's fine. Cool, cool, cool. Everything's fine.
Okay, I know exactly how that feels. So I have a hairline, and people had DM'd me, and they're like, "You should make merch." And I was like, "I don't think I'm creative enough for merch." So I went to Grayson, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Because art is like his jam." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, would you want to come on as like my creative director and create the art for merch?" And he whipped
Right.
out that iPad so fast, and he was like, "What do you think of these?" And I was like,
I
"You're
love
cool. This is amazing." So we
that.
ended up making like the first sweatshirt and it looked so rad. And we were like, we need to do a shoot. So I ended up ordering like our own backdrop. We cleared out my living room, which was easy because my house was packed anyway. We
Yeah.
did our own photo shoot and we were in tears. We have never laughed so hard. And then we're also like trying to find, at one point I was like, are we Zara? Are we
Yeah.
doing weird, too many weird poses to where like this doesn't? And you
Um,
but you know
I
what?
know
But I
exactly what you mean.
good.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like that's also humbling. Like, okay, this is actually really hard to look natural but cool, but like show off the clothes. It was so challenging. I needed to take like multiple shots before that day began. It was so hard. Oh my God. It's tough.
Was well, and then, like, him and I always say we're like, "Just don't get our feet," because we've got, like, people are weird, they're gross and weird on the
Oh,
internet,
weird.
disgusting, and Grayson is really big, he's like, "Never get my feet in a shot, don't do it," so, of course, I was like, "Ooh," I'm like, "I could start your OnlyFans for feet now," he's like, "Delete it immediately,"
Yeah.
so then it's also you have to be comfortable, but when we ended up looking at the photos, and because I feel like he is one of the most aesthetically pleasing humans to ever look at, I'm like, "Oh, we just your whole vibe," and then I was like, "Oh, so you're just, like, meant for this," and he's like, "Look how cool you look." So I'm telling you, you need a hype like, everyone needs a hype man to be like, "You're cool, and you're beautiful, and you're amazing."
So true. That is so true. That helps a lot. I had the girls that were helping me with the clothing line and doing all the stuff basically and taking photos were so instrumental in that. They were hyping me up. But still, it was a challenge. Very humbling.
It's very awkward. Okay, and you work with your husband, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I'm
I
together.
love that. How does that go? Because I feel like that's not a lot of time spent together, but it's a lot of time spent together.
Yeah, oh my God, it's a lot. You know what? It's a learning curve like everything else. Overall, it's great because nobody is going to care about the business as much as I do, and then second in line as much as he does. Like that's just something that I have come to realize that was a hard reality for me when I started like having people help me. I mean, I've had amazing people help me. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's just that they just won't care about the business like the same basically. So, it's been a learning curve. He did real estate for like 20 years, literally
Oh,
nothing like it. Yeah, totally nothing like it. But when BCU started to grow and other stuff was coming up, it became clear that I could not handle everything myself, like not even close. So, yeah, he kind of was ready to, I mean, he was kind of ready to like explore other options anyway. And let's see, like 2022, I think. So a couple years ago, he started working with me full time. Yeah, so we like literally sit in our beautiful office, which is our guest room, and we have two computers and we sit next to each other. And it's great. The greatest thing is that I do not want to do any of the like businessy stuff like analyze analytics or look at analytics or make spreadsheets or anything like that. And unfortunately, part of my business now requires that. And he is so good at that stuff. So we really kind of like help each other. We balance each other and pick up where the other one like doesn't have the same skill level. So it's been a learning curve as working with your spouse always would be, but it's been overall great. Like it's been really nice. So
you
I'm happy
love.
to
Well, it's so funny because they always say, like, don't mix business and personal. So my
Yes.
admin for my company is actually my older brother. I hired him
Oh,
on,
yeah.
yeah, I hired him on full time this year. So he was working. He's just one of the smartest people I know. Especially when it comes to computers and tech and like logistical everything. He's brilliant. And he did
Yeah.
that for a school. And then him and his wife did IVF, found out they were pregnant. They just had a baby an hour and a half after my birthday ended. I was devastated. I was like, "No, I wanted children so bad." But
Oh,
his like dream was to be a stay-at-home dad. And I was basically like, if I match your salary plus health insurance, will you come work for me full time? He's like, what do you need? And
yes.
best move I ever made. Because you're right. No one cares and no one will care more about it than your own family.
Nope. It's so true. I love that. Congrats. That's huge. That's awesome.
I cried and then I threw up.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but I wanted to. You know, like when
That's
it's
yeah.
when you hire your first employee, you're like, I'm responsible for you
Yeah.
all the time. For your livelihood, your hood, and your food, and you have a baby now. Okay,
Yeah.
that puts a whole different kind of pressure on the situation.
Oh yeah. It's scary. Totally. It's very scary.
It's horrifying. No, I'm glad I did it, but at the same time, I remember like leading up to the weeks, knowing like he's like, hey, I'm putting my 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, I'm like, we're sure about this.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, it's real now. I know. It's
We have a
scary.
slow transition. Oh, we don't.
Yeah.
We're gonna jump. That's fine. Yeah, I'm like so
Okay.
ready.
I know it's a mixed emotions for sure. It's like great, but also like, holy shit, this is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it also puts more pressure? Because you kind of said it earlier, like being a business owner, you never know if what you're doing is right or wrong. And like it's kind of a crapshoot. You're like, I'm emotionally and I'm doing the right thing because it feels right, but there's no proof even anything you're gonna put out, people are gonna like.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, I question it every day and I question like, with any business there's ups and downs and ups and downs. It's kind of like a roller coaster at all times, but I question, why is it down? Is it something I did or posted or is it like did I put the wrong class or like whatever? Or is it just the economy or is it whatever? So I'm like an overthinker anyway, and then owning a business just takes it to the next level. So it's really tough. Yeah, it's you have to have like a lot of honest conversations with yourself, but also just, be gentle with yourself too
Yeah.
and let it kind of like the business do its thing. But I'm constantly overanalyzing everything. I don't know if that'll ever change, but
I
you know,
don't I don't think that ever changes. I
right.
really don't. I feel like luckily my fiance he's like my biggest hype man. I don't
I
think
love
there's
that.
he is my number one fan. Everything I do, he's like, I'm so proud of you. Are you proud of you? You're amazing. And I'm like, I am
Oh,
right.
yeah, you are. That is awesome. That's so important to have somebody like in your corner encouraging you and pushing you. It's huge.
Especially because there are gonna be bad days. Like
Oh, 1,000%.
that there's going to be a student upset, someone who took the class who said they didn't like it, someone who
Yep.
thinks what you post is stupid and actually has the balls to say it. Like those comments to me are the
Wow.
wild ones where I'm like, could you just not?
Like, you don't have to write anything, right? Like, you could just keep scrolling by. It's wild to me.
It's crazy. And I always say, I'm like, I feel like I don't, if I'm going to take the time to respond to someone, it's going to be someone who's like being nice. But I always
Right.
say, if you catch me on a day where I have time, don't.
Look
Because
out.
if you're
I
going to
know.
be that mean, like, just don't. Come
I
on.
know. It's
Or
horrible. Yeah.
yeah. Do you feel like, because talking about like never knowing the right thing to do you have like an oh shit moment where you were like, yeah, that was not the right move?
Oh my God. I've had like a million, of course. Let me see if I can think of one. I mean, plenty with working behind the chair. I've made those kind of mistakes all the time. Just like mixing the wrong thing or like, oh shit, that was a terrible technique to choose or whatever. One of the biggest kind of in retrospect moments, I would say in my whole career was, oh shit, like why didn't I assist anybody when I graduated from school? That would be like a major. And plenty of people are hugely successful without assisting, and I figured it out. But I always say like that was a big regret for me and a big like, oh shit, that was stupid because I just think I could have learned a lot. I figured a lot of stuff out the hard way that would have easily been figured out had I assisted. But of course, I was like an arrogant 20-year-old, yeah, just like, oh, I know everything. I had 10 months of school, like, of course. So that I would say that be the biggest one. Lately, I mean, God, I do it all day long. Like, oh shit, I gave that person like, should I have told her this formula to formulate with or this one? Like small things like that all day long. But
Yeah,
one of the bigger ones I would say was wish I would have assisted. And that was like, oh shit, that was stupid of me. So,
I love that. I also did not assist out of cosmetology school. I should have. I will never
yeah,
forget my first men's haircut. It turned out good, but I was so nervous. I will never forget pulling up my comb and my hand was shaking. And I remember
yeah,
thinking, he's never going to come back. I look crazy.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this is it.
Oh my, oh,
That is,
I had so many things like that. Not even just to mention like technique wise, but just learning how to run your business, how long to book for clients, how long to like, how do you have a consultation that's successful? All that stuff that we should absolutely know in school, but really don't somehow learn. Like that kind of stuff is also what took me a while to figure out. And I could have probably had a better and easier time with that had I not struggled through it for the first couple of years and figured that out. But oh well, you know.
but it is one of those things. It's like I always say, I had like a one-on-one for an extension method I worked with yesterday. And when I was talking to her, I was like, how old are you? She's like, I'm 20. And I was like, 20. I was like,
Wow.
I remember being 20 and thinking I knew everything. And then at 21, I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. And then at
It's
25, I thought I knew everything. And at 30, I was like, no, you were still an idiot. Like, I feel like the older I get, the more I'm like, I've come to realize adults don't have it all together. It's a lie. No one knows anything.
1,000%. No matter the age, like I'm still figuring it out. I'm like still just even with hair. I've been doing hair for 17 years and I still have no clue what I'm doing a lot of the time. And I'm better, more well equipped now, certainly, thankfully, but it's just constantly educating yourself. This industry, especially, is you can never stop learning stuff, and if you do, it's not good because it's ever changing, constant change. Yeah.
Well, and I love hearing you say that you feel like you know nothing because it's obvious you know, like you're so incredibly talented.
Oh,
But like
thank
even
you.
things like that, I feel like even being at the salon, people get so weird about like pulling out a swatch book. I'm like,
Yes,
pull it, pull it out. It doesn't mean you don't know anything or that you're a ding dong. Like just pull it
exactly.
out. It's fine.
Totally. I think that's a common misconception is that like all of a sudden everything's just gonna click and you're gonna feel like, oh, I know everything. It goes in different degrees, right? It's like the just graduated, you literally like know very, very little. Yeah, know nothing. And then, once you start doing clients and stuff, you actually get a little bit more of a grasp on stuff, but still stuff comes up now and I pull out my swatch book or people like you said, that's such a great example. People are afraid to go back to those basic things. And it's like, no, I still have the chart up in my color cabinet of like what every single number in the numbering system means in Schwarzkopf because I forget it. I'm like, it's just not
Like,
ingrained in my brain forever. Stuff like that. It's like, don't be embarrassed to just have the color wheel up all the time or whatever, because that kind of stuff, it, but then situations test you. So you got to recheck it. So it's,
literally.
yes. Oh my
Yep.
God. There's so many.
How do you feel like, because I feel like you're always putting out, I mean, you have your models and I guess you don't really take clients anymore, but like for education, you're doing all these things. Where do you find your inspiration to be like, I should do like this pattern would work for this thing? Like, where does this come to you from?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And a lot of it comes just out of a need from like, honestly, people asking questions or the feedback that I get from people. And most of it is, some people are like, oh, I'm inspired by nature. Like, I'm not really, to be honest. I mean, like art is everywhere. That's great. But for me, I'm always driven and inspired by a need in the salon, honestly. And just working in the salon and knowing the shit that sucks and the shit that works. And so for me, it just became this thing of, as far as new placements, it's definitely always just how can I make this easier, quicker, and like a better end result? Honestly, that's always what I'm looking for because I was that person in the salon who foiled for like 2 hours, a minimum on every single person. And is there a time and a place for that? 1,000%. And I am not saying that that is always the wrong thing to do, but majority of the time it is completely unnecessary and it's just out of habit and because you don't know what else to do. It's just you just do it because, like, oh, I don't know, I guess I'll just do what I've been doing on everybody else forever. And so my new anything kind of like that I tweak with placements or whatever always just comes out of a want to make it quicker, faster, and better, basically. But, maybe one day nature will inspire me. But for now, it's just efficiency.
That is hilarious. You know what, though? I love hearing that because what that basically tells me is everything you've built has been from feedback of your students, of them
Yes.
being like, that was great, but what about, but what about, but what about? How
Yes.
is it like accepting that massive, because there has to be so much feedback you get all the time. My assumption is generally it's wonderful, but there, like I said, are hard times too. Like, how is it accepting all of that and not, I don't want to say not having like a quick mentee be, but also not having a
Yes.
complete mental breakdown some days.
The mentee bees come and they go. Absolutely. I'm like, some days I'm like, I am just on the verge of breaking down at any moment. The littlest thing will set me off. And there are just days like that. And yes, there have been plenty of great, amazing bits of feedback. And there have also been negative feedback. And some of that is about, as far as like with education, for instance, of course, with clients, that comes as well. But on the education side of it, it's either, not just necessarily the techniques like don't work for me or whatever, but some of it is about more like stuff that I don't even consider, like, oh, the way you set this up, the tech on the website or something, like how you actually access content or anything. Like that wasn't good or this didn't work or that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh shit, not I don't even consider that. But I would say, so there's so many aspects to it, but I would say the negative feedback comes with the territory. Unfortunately, it's that risk of putting yourself out there and knowing that I'm not for everybody. And that is true when I was taking clients full time. And that was an extremely hard pill for me to swallow. I mean, it took me years to be okay with clients, even the most minor tweak. And if the client was even nice about it, it would, I mean, for a week, I would have a stomach ache. Like I would be so upset about it. It really affected me. So the same thing goes with education. Now I feel that I have a little bit more experience and luckily I can kind of go on like, okay, well, I also have these 10 comments that I got that were positive. And really it helps me, honestly. What helps me is when I get feedback from anybody that's positive, I will take a screenshot of it or take, like a picture of good work. It's usually a screenshot of a client emailing, texting, or a student emailing, student texting or DMing, and I just haven't. I have a library on I have a album on my phone with those positive things, so that I can be like, let me see actual physical proof that a single person likes this class, and it makes me feel better. Like it sounds stupid, but sometimes you get so in your head and you get so caught up in that one negative review can overshadow everything good that has happened, and so. Yes, it's really hard. And even after all these years of doing hair, because I still have people, even with models, whenever I do their hair, and there's still sometimes when they're like, oh, can you tweak this? Or I don't love this. And I still like, okay, just take a breath. Like, it's okay. Yes, and it's a whole thing. But I would say it comes with the territory. Unfortunately, it's the risk of putting yourself out there. But there's also the great thing that comes with that, which is people connecting with you and liking it. And I just have to know I'm not for everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah, that makes me feel so much better. I also have that same album in my phone.
Yeah, I love that.
And it
helps.
Yes, every testimonial, every review, because yes, you get that. It sucks that the one bad one, even if it's like you speak too slow or you went, it's like, okay, well, like, damn, man. Like, I think sometimes when you reach a certain point, especially like the point you're at in your career, people forget you're also like a fucking human being. Like, wow, like you're not yelling at Blonde Chronicles, you're yelling at the woman who made it. So
1,000%.
you like take a deep breath, but those albums help so much because it does give you just a little bit of reminder of like, for every one negative one, there's about 45 good. So just focus on the 45 good, learn what you can from the one negative, and you just have to like move on. I remember, I think it was Daniel M. I love his work. It is, you can pick his work out of a lineup of a million. It is him.
Yep.
I think he posted, oh, beautiful. One day he had posted a story that he's like, here's what I'm doing in the salon today. I have to redo this toner. I have to resmudge this client. I have to recut this client. He's like, I have a day of redos. It happens to everyone. And I was like, I remember DMing him and I'm like, thank you. Because yes, all I do is extensions and color, and extensions are like a whole nother world. Like that is, those clients are wonderful, but that's another world. And I remember, I think I'd had that week, a client was like, I think it slipped a little. And I was like, I'm garbage. A pizza, a stupid section. It was such a, like that one thing of like, and she was so nice. My clients are the best. But she's like, I think it slipped a little. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I saw his story. And I was like, this is normal. It happens to everyone. Literally.
I saw that too. And I said the same thing. I was like, thank you for sharing this, because it's so important to be reminded that it's not just an isolated incident with one person. Like everybody is experiencing that. We're all going through that. No matter how good you are, how long your wait list is. I always say that, like, people think all of a sudden, once you have all these clients and you like have a wait list and you're charging a lot, people are just, you never have any mistake. You never make any mistakes, or people have stopped being like critical of certain things on their hair. And I'm like, Actually, I feel like it's kind of the opposite, unfortunately, but it's really, really good to be reminded that that happens to everybody and way more than you think, probably. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Grayson and I were talking one day because and we were talking about his social media and I was like, I'm like, you've kind of like put yourself on a pedestal by accident of your work being
Yes.
so good that people
Yes.
forget you're human. I'm like, how many wefts did you have to throw away a couple months ago? He's like, 12 wefts, fucked them all up. And I was like,
Yeah.
why don't you talk about that? And he did. He's like, he tried to take it from like, it was so gnarly, like a level 10, it needed like a level 2 root. And he
Yeah.
somehow, it just did not, it was not the day. He threw away like 12 wefts, which is so expensive. That is an
Oh,
expensive mistake to make.
yeah.
He had to reschedule the client. And I'm like, why don't you talk about that? And he was like, I don't know. I just buried it in the depths of my memory to never
Going to pick it up again. Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to have to bring this up during therapy. It's traumatizing.
Literally.
Oh my God. I think reminding people that no matter what level you're at, something is going to humble you. And it hurts so much more. I feel like the bigger you grow because you're like, it's almost, is it ever a feeling of like, I should have known better? Like, why did I?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I have those moments all the time. I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, how could I do that? But then it's just, you're a human. Like you said, things happen. And all of us have a lot going on. And sometimes you just get sidetracked for whatever reason. But yeah, it is still tough, though, to get those texts or to make those mistakes or whatever. But part of comes with the territory, you know?
Yeah. So what's next like on the horizon for you? Like what do you have coming up that this is horrible. I always say like tickles your pickle. Like you're so
Yeah.
excited, you can barely contain it.
Oh my gosh. I love that question. And so I guess I don't know if I have one clear answer, but my goal moving forward is to kind of diversify my offers within my education business. So right now I'm very like I've got the online subscription BCU and that's great and that's so much fun and a great option for people, but I don't have a lot in the way of if somebody wants to do a one-off course or they don't want to commit to a subscription. So that is my next goal is to diversify more with my offers. I have 2 courses that I've already made that I'm just like everything else has gotten in front of me launching them. So those are coming soon. And then so that's a big piece of what I'm going to be doing is different offers, like one-off courses, or I might do some sort of like a group kind of weekly like learning experience through different videos or something like that. I also am really, really interested in planning and working on, haven't set it into motion yet, but it's on my vision board. I'm manifesting it. A in-person BCU event. Like I've obviously taught, I would be so excited. I've obviously taught in-person classes and I will be doing some of that again, but I really want to do some sort of like big event where people can come together. And I feel that there's nothing like being in a room with like-minded stylists and getting that inspiration and that energy. So that's huge on my radar. So working on all that stuff. Yeah.
What's the biggest class you've ever taught?
Oh my gosh, I taught so if it was just talking about my classes and teaching color or anything, I think the biggest one I had was like 65 people, which felt huge. It was big. Honestly, it was a little too big. Like I love but with color, it's really important to me that I have I just want everybody to get a lot out of the class. And I don't want to feel like I'm just there to just get a bunch of money and then leave. Like, I really want to make it impactful for people. So sometimes with a lot of people, if you don't have the right setup with like a TV showing you're up close what you're doing, I feel like it's hard. It was a learning experience for sure. It was just one of those things where people kept wanting to buy tickets and I kept letting them. And then I was like, oh God, like, what did I do? But it was a learning experience for sure.
Yeah.
But then I've done like bigger events where I'm not the only person. It's more of like a hair show kind of situation. So, but we'll see.
That's
Hopefully, an
amazing.
AC event would be like something big and fun. So, yeah.
I will be there immediately. That
Yeah.
sounds
Oh my God.
wonderful. Yes.
Please. I love that.
You know what? I love the idea of mini courses because you're right. Some people don't want a whole thing. You
Yeah.
could even do, not that you need ideas, but
No,
almost
I
what you're
do.
saying, like you could do almost like I don't want to say like introductory, like blonding, but for people who are coming out of school that even like the fancier things that they're like, how did you, I literally tagged my co-stylist
Yeah.
in one of your posts this morning that she hates the neckline. Every time I'm like, you're gonna
Yeah.
start in the back. She's like, please don't make me. I'm like, it's the thing you
Yeah.
hate. It's the thing you will do. Like, you're gonna start in the back. And when you posted it, I tagged her. I'm like, oh, Jasmine, look at this. Like, I didn't
Yes.
that, which I feel like once you've been foiling for so long, you're like, yeah, it's just the neck. Go this way, you'll be fine. But actually, it's the most irritating spot ever,
1,000%.
ever. So I feel like even almost like easy foiling for like brand new newbies to practice and get used to it. I
Yeah.
would buy that for my co-stylist just to be like, keep practicing, keep learning. Cause
Yes.
state courses, I swear, are the best way to teach people. That's how she learned weft coloring. I was like, look, watch Grayson's course and then we'll practice.
Yep. 1,000%. And you know what I love about virtual education? And by the way, that is a great idea. And that is pretty close to the one of the courses I have coming out. It's called Foundations. Which I love you. We're just like-minded like that. It's called Foundations of Foiling. And it's basically like if you just feel so like blonding is so complex, I break down what does it mean to do horizontal foils, what does vertical foiling look like, what does diagonal back, like what results do those give you? It's very in depth, plus a lot of I call them blonding add-ons, which are like base bumping, tipping out, all the things that, it's not just one highlight technique and pattern is going to get you there. So that's your genius. And I just love that you said that because that's where my mind goes too. But what else was I just going to say? We were talking about something else. You were telling me about your co-stylist.
And then that courses are a great way to teach people because that's how I made her weft lab. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love virtual education because, in-person education is completely amazing as well. And that energy that you get from the room of people, I feel you can't get that online. You just can't. But with virtual education, the best thing is that you can go back and watch it, which is life-changing. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did I not catch on to this sooner? Because the thing is that you do it, and then immediately once you do the technique, you have questions because you're like, wait, but what? And, there's something about you take an in-person class, you can't get those questions answered. So with virtual education, it's like, oh, wait, let me watch this again now that I've been doing this for 2 weeks. And now I have a idea of what happens when I do this part of the process or whatever. So it's so beneficial. So I'm really excited about more offers like that you can, they're specific to one topic, not just, the membership's great because you can get a little bit of everything, but not everybody wants that. So I'm excited to expand on that more.
I think that is absolutely amazing. So we are coming close to the end of our time. So one more question for you.
Yes, perfect.
Advice. So there's an artist listening and they want to build their own brand. They're inspired by you. They're nervous. They kind of want to throw up. Like they're doing all these things. Like, what do you feel is like the biggest piece of advice you can give them as they start to build their brand to like make their own impact on this world?
Sorry about my dog barking, by the way, who's going
I have
crazy.
4 and I kenneled them because they would go nuts. And I get it.
Oh my God, mine's someone. Okay, so will you summarize the question one more time? Right.
You're fine. I know the minute dogs bark, you're just like, oh God, what are you doing?
Barking.
You're embarrassing mom right now. Behave.
What?
I get it. So I said, so to the person who's listening right now, they look up to you. You inspire the hell out of them every day. And they're like, I want to be able to put myself out there, show my skills and build their brand, leave their impact on the industry. Like, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give them?
Yeah, so I would say it sounds very cliche, but be true to yourself and don't waver on that. Even when you are like, it doesn't seem cool or it doesn't seem trendy, nobody's doing what you're doing, do it anyway. And just do it even if you are scared. I don't have any tattoos, but if I got any tattoos, one would immediately be the phrase do it anyway. And I would like tattoo it on my freaking face to remember. But I love that. I love that kind of sentiment of like you're gonna feel fucking scared. There's no way around it. It's not normal. Anything you do out of the normal, any change, anything different feels scary. Do it anyway and just be true to you and yourself, even when it feels like nobody cares or nobody's watching. because that's how everybody started. My Blonde Chronicles apparel account is a great example. That's how Blonde Chronicles started. Was nobody cared and nobody was watching, and I just kept doing it and was like, well, hopefully this pays off. And I really genuinely believe that if you just continue consistently doing what brings you joy and what feels right to you, something will come out of it. Whether or not that's what you envisioned from the get-go would come out of it, something will. And I think it's just really important to just be true to yourself. As cliche as that sounds, do it anyway, even when you feel like nobody cares and you're scared to do it.
I love that so much. As one of like, I feel like I'm the weird kid who is heavily tattooed, honestly, with just Harry Potter tattoos. That's all
I
you're looking
love
at.
that. Oh my God, I love that.
What you need to do when you have like the BCU retreat big convention event,
Yes.
you should make your own like tattoo sticker sheet of like all your
Yes.
favorite sayings and things so people can just walk around with your tattoos for like a whole week. That would be
I
amazing.
love that. Oh my God. Or should I have like a pop-up tattoo person to do like mini tattoos? That
I'm
would be
telling
so
you, do it. My fiance and I, we went to the CrossFit Games in Wisconsin last year, and one of the big guys there, his brother, like one of the biggest in the whole industry, his
cool.
brother's a tattoo artist, and he's tattooing their logo on people, which I was like,
Wow.
do it,
That's so cool.
do it. People like me, and I'll even say like Grayson, who just have so many, we're like,
Yeah.
yes, we'll do it immediately.
Or even
We're
people that just want to get like a little something to remember the event. Okay, I'm gonna consider that.
you absolutely should
I'm gonna tell people it was Ani's idea. You told me.
do it. I'm like, yes, I'm encouraging all the tattoos.
Yeah.
You're right. I am.
Yeah, love it.
Well, thank you
Absolutely.
so much for being here today. You just like I told you in that wild audio I sent you, you are just cool. You're just cool. And I love that about you. Like, that's one thing, like, even though I don't know you, that's one thing that attracted me to your brand is I'm like, she just seems like a down bitch. And that's just in this day and age, I'm like, that's rad. And that matters so much.
Well, I feel the same about you, and I'm so happy that we connected. And I feel like we are friends, even though we haven't met IRL. We're friends. But no, thank you so much for having me. Seriously, I'm always honored when people ask me to be on their podcast or do any kind of any sort of thing on their platform in general. It's so special to me. So I really appreciate you giving the chance to chat with you and to your audience. So thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Well, guys, thanks for being here for another episode of Mourning Tea, and I'll be seeing you next week.
Thanks. Bye.